Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Ward, Executive Vice President of Race Forward. It's an honor to be here with you all this evening. Linda Sarsour and I met a little over a decade ago in Dallas, Texas. We had a long conversation about the state of the world. Hate crimes were on the rise around the country. We were watching the rise of hate groups who were using the bigotry of Islamophobia, racism, and anti-Semitism in order to build political power. That evening in the discussion, we understood that hate groups weren't out there spreading hate to spread hate. It was to shift the way that we saw one another in society. I remember a few years later, in the wake of police killings in the Black community, Linda Sarsour came to visit me as I was a program officer at the Ford Foundation overseeing the civil rights portfolio, 2015. And Linda said, I have an idea. We want to walk from New York City to Washington, D.C. We want to visit communities along the way. I understood in that moment that Linda Sarsour was not a bystander. It is a hard time to be a leader in America. It is a moment where exclusion, the idea of tribalism and fear, is being manipulated to drive our communities apart along lines of race, religion, and gender and sexual orientation. But leaders understand that our destinies are entwined, and it's a difficult place to stand as a leader in this moment. We should understand that in these moments, leaders have to carry two burdens: the burden and the blessing of representing one's community and being true to it. And the other is that desire for broader unity. Now, I'm not going to give Linda's speech tonight, but I will tell you one thing she will tell you. Unity does not mean uniformity. To be a leader in this moment means being willing to be seen as controversial, not always understood or seen in the way that you intend. To have folks manipulate those moments where they disagree. Even still, leaders rise because they understand the moment is critical. We have a promise to keep to those who came before us, who struggled in the backwoods of right-wing violence in America. But we also have the dreams of those who come after us. Linda has always been true to the cause of small d democracy. And she traveled across the country tonight, not because she is just an individual leader, but she understands the truth that leaders aren't just people, sometimes they're communities. We sit in a community of leadership tonight. The Muslim Educational Trust models each and every day what diversity and empowerment and inclusion looks like. And it doesn't just exist in these walls, but the influence that you have each and every day. That is small d. Linda is brave and passionate. She's a leader like me who understands what it means to stand in a hard space and sometimes alone, but to know your community is close by. She wrote, once we grasp that we are not actually outnumbered, we will no longer be out-organized by those who seek to divide us, by provoking tribal animosities. She says, "Look around you, my sisters and brothers. We are each other's greatest hopes, the beating heart of a nation. We are what democracy looks like." For the 5 people in the room who don't know Linda Sarsour, I'm honored to introduce her to you tonight. She's an award-winning racial justice and civil rights activist, a seasoned community organizer, direct action strategist, and the mother of 3. She is ambitious, outspoken, independent. Linda shatters stereotypes of Muslim women while also treasuring her religious and ethnic heritage. She is a Palestinian Muslim American and a self-proclaimed pure New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn. I was honored to work with Linda in supporting her work in building Empower, the first Muslim online organizing platform. And she's also was the co-founder of Until Freedom, an intersectional racial justice organization focused on direct action. As you will understand, Linda has been here the entire walk of her life. As I said, she's a mother, an activist, a leader, a strategist. She's a Palestinian activist, but she's also my friend. And in hard moments, when you don't always agree, those are the moments to listen more intently, to listen more carefully. And I'm here to tell you tonight, this nation would do well to listen to the words of Linda Sarsour. I'd like to introduce you to my friend. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, MET. Yeah, I don't need a mic, but I'm gonna use the mic tonight because there's a lot of people in this room. So I'm gonna do the school teacher thing. Jessica would be proud. We're gonna have a very important conversation in this room today. And I came all the way from New York City to Oregon to have this really important conversation. But I want to start off by saying that there is an unsung hero in this room. And that is my dear brother, Wajdi, who is someone that I wish I could take and replicate in every city in America, in every town, in every Muslim national organization. A man who, for me, embodies inclusivity, dignity, respect, supporting women, leadership in our community. So I hope you in Oregon are grateful to have the leadership of Brother Wajdi. And I want to thank my brother Eric for coming up here to introduce me. And something that Brother Eric, I hope, knows is that back in 2015, the reason why I was able to quit a job that I wasn't very happy at, where I knew that I could do a lot more, and it is because of Eric, who invested in me and gave me a fellowship and told me, I know you have more in store for this country, and I am going to fund you to do and implement the vision that you have. So my rise to a national leader was because someone like Eric, who was sitting in a philanthropic organization, said, I believe in you. And so I appreciate you, Eric, for all the work that you do and that you've done for our movements for a long time. Sisters and brothers, I know that everybody and Brother Wajdi stood up here and told you inclusive, wonderful, amazing, it sounded really inspiring. I'm here to tell you that I wish that I can take this room and replicate it all over the country. Because while you are an incredible space, unfortunately, we live in a country where what you have built here as a community is not necessarily the norm across this country. There are people from every walk of life in this room, people that respect one another, people sitting across the table from one another, people from different political parties, people that live in different parts of Oregon, from low-income communities to people who live in some of the most high-income communities here in Oregon, and you still found yourself in the same space. There are people of different racial backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, people of no religious background, and you still found a way to be in this space together. This is the America that I want to live in. This is the America that I want to live in. This is the America that I fight for every single day. Sisters and brothers, what you are experiencing at MET and in this room today is not the norm that is happening across the country. There are people in every corner of this country who wake up every morning to think about ways to divide us from one another, to find ways to point out our differences, to make sure that we look at each other and actually not see the humanity in one another. This is American politics, and this is what American politics has delved into if we do not rise to the occasion. So yes, every day I get up because I believe in the potential of this country. If I didn't believe that America could be great, if I didn't believe that America could be a safe and secure place for all of us, I would have a 9-to-5 job, and I wouldn't put my life at risk, and I wouldn't be speaking the truth to power, and I would not be deemed a controversial figure in these United States of America. You know, when I heard about 30 years of MET, sisters and brothers, thinking about that for a moment. I was 13 years old when MET was founded. And I want all of you who sit in this room today, especially for my Muslim sisters and brothers, to sit and reflect for just a second. A lot of times as Muslims, we take for granted who we are, what spaces we're able to go to, what opportunities are afforded to us. Before there was an MET, sisters and brothers, there were communities before MET and people before MET who sacrificed for us to be in this room today. And one of the reasons why I fight so hard and why I'm so unapologetically Muslim is because I know my history as a Muslim American in this country. If our young people knew, if the young people at MET knew that went to the school, that go to the school, if Muslim children across this country knew that we can trace our ancestry back to explorers before this country was even called the United States of America. If our Muslim young people knew that we could trace our Muslim lineage back to enslaved African people, 25 to 30% of African enslaved people were Muslims. Many of them scholars, many of them people who spoke multiple languages, some of them members of the royal families in Africa. And when I think, sisters and brothers, about our experiences as Muslims in 2023 or 2020 or 2016, our experiences are nothing compared to the experiences of Muslims who were enslaved people, some of whom experienced forced conversions. But what the white slave master didn't know is you cannot change what is in people's hearts. So when enslaved people, some of whom became semi-free, it is because of their sacrifices. It is because they continued to figure out how to be Muslim under the watches of white slave masters. They used the sunrise and the sunset, to figure out when it was time to pray. They watched the seasons to figure out when might it be Ramadan this year. So I want our young people here to know that the reason why an MET can exist is because Black African enslaved people sacrificed for you under the watches of slave masters, so that our immigrant great-grandparents and grandparents and parents could immigrate from countries to the United States and walk off an airplane and say, Assalamu alaikum, I am a Muslim. And so, sisters and brothers, that's why I walk with my back straight. Nobody can tell me to go back to where I came from, because first of all, I came from Brooklyn, New York. That's where I came from. But also because I honor the sacrifice of people that came before me. I am unapologetically Muslim because someone decided to sacrifice their life so that I could stand before you here today on this MET stage, on the Women's March stage, on stages and media outlets across this country and across this world. That's why I'm unapologetic about who I am. Sisters and brothers, a lot of times people will say, MashaAllah, Sister Linda, she's an activist, MashaAllah. What I want you to know in this room, for my both Muslim and our other friends who are here and allies, is it's not that I'm an activist. It's just that I am practicing my Islam in public. When I think about the issues that I care about, the issues that I fight for, I am walking in the path of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. So when you see people like me fighting for racial justice, I didn't start saying Black Lives Matter because I saw a hashtag on social media. We follow a beloved deen that always taught us that Black Lives Matter, that we are to judge each other by our piety and our good deeds and not by the color of our skin. We are a faith that has always elevated people by their knowledge, by their good deeds, by their character, and not based on the color of their skin. That, my dear sisters and brothers, is Islam. When we talk about welcoming refugees into our community, when we talk about immigration and immigrant rights, sisters and brothers, all of our beloved prophets were refugees. Imagine you saying that you wouldn't welcome our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, to your community, or Moses, or Jesus. Imagine that. So sisters and brothers, when we talk about welcoming the stranger to our community, when we talk about fighting for the dignity of immigrants that come to our community, you are following in the steps of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. Sisters and brothers, when we talk about workers' rights and you see people fighting for workers' rights and fighting to be paid fair wages, your beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, taught you, pay the worker before the sweat on his forehead dries. Sisters and brothers, this is our beloved deen. So when we watch workers stand up and say, pay me my fair wages, give me my fair contracts, it is your responsibility as a Muslim to stand up with workers and ensuring that workers have good working conditions. Because that, my friends, is the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. When I think about the incredible women that I have met in this community, Muslim women, internal medicine, accountants, lawyers, attorneys, and we talk about the education of women. Sisters and brothers, that is a foundational principle in Islam. It is a foundational principle and teaching of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. You know, a lot of times I have this debate in the Muslim community because a lot of people in the Muslim community, they get really irked by this idea of feminism. Because they understand feminism from the perspective of white liberal feminism that most times did not include people like me, that did not include women in Afghanistan and women in Palestine and women across the world. And I want people to know that when I stand up as a very proud, unapologetic woman leader in this country for justice, it is because I am a Muslim, not because I follow white liberal feminism in America. Sisters and brothers, our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, educate your daughters. That if you raise righteous daughters, they are your ticket to heaven. I'm sure that raising your son gets you some good credits too. But apparently raising righteous, educated daughters is your ticket to heaven. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, heaven lies at the feet of your mother. He didn't say it lies at the feet of your father. I'm sure you're supposed to love and respect your father too, and they make many sacrifices for us. But heaven lies at the feet of our mothers. This, my dear sisters and brothers, is why I am an empowered Muslim American woman, because my faith puts dignity and dignifies me as a woman. And it is why I walk with my back straight and my head held high. Sisters and brothers, there are people in this country right now who want to divide us based on left and right. Sisters and brothers, Islam is not a direction. There is no left and right in Islam. In Islam, there is a straight path. Okay? There's a straight path. You can't go left and right. So don't allow people to put those labels on you. Islam is not Republican or Democrat. Islam is not independent or Green Party. So we should not fall into the divisiveness in this country that tells you what side you are on. And so when I tell people as an activist and as an organizer, I don't accept those labels. People in the Muslim community say, Sister Linda's progressive. Sister Linda's a leftist. Sister Linda's this and Sister Linda. What's funny is that the progressives don't even like me sometimes. The leftists don't want me sometimes. The right doesn't want me sometimes. Or actually, they don't want me all the time, just to be clear. But I'm talking to my Muslim sisters and brothers, and hopefully others will benefit. Don't allow people to put labels on us. Let's go back to values and principles. So I say to Muslims all the time, there is nothing left or right or Republican or Democrat about believing that every child in America deserves access to a high-quality public education. There's nothing left or right about believing that immigrants deserve dignity and respect in these United States of America, and that they should not have to live in the shadows because they don't have some piece of paper that somebody wants to look at. Sisters and brothers, it is not left or right to believe that police officers in our community are hired to protect and serve us. It's not a left or right. And that our black sisters and brothers should be able to walk through their communities safely and with dignity. It's not Republican or Democrat. That's something we should all believe in this room. Sisters and brothers, we should not, as a community, believe it is left or right or Republican or Democrat to believe that the government should not be involved in my personal decisions around health care as a woman in this country. That's not a Muslim issue, a Jewish issue. That is a fundamental principle, that there should not be a Muslim in this room that thinks that a white Christian man in Congress gets to tell me what decisions I get to make. That is my decision, my spiritual decision, my health care decision, my family decision. So that is not a debate that should be happening in our Muslim community. Sisters and brothers, it is not left or right to believe that we should end mass incarceration in this country. Let me explain to you the math. America holds a quarter of the world's prison population. Sisters and brothers, how is that possible? India has 1 billion people. China has 1 billion people. We have 333 million Americans, and we hold 1 out of every 4 prisoners in the entire world. Why is that a left issue, right issue, Republicans, Democrats? That is a fundamental issue of freedom, of justice, of a system that works for everyone, regardless of your economic status, regardless of your race, regardless of what zip code you live in. In America, our justice system is based on how wealthy you are and how fast you can hire a fast-talking attorney in the United States of America. That, my dear sisters and brothers, is not a justice system. It is an injustice system. And we together in this room should be against a system that discriminates people based on race, faith, ethnicity, or their financial status. So I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to fall for any labels in this country. I don't like Republicans or Democrats. Because guess what? Politicians are human beings and they could be wrong sometimes. And we have a tendency in this country to worship elected officials and people because we like them. These people work for you. Let us just be very clear here. They work for us. Your taxpayer dollars pay the salary of every counselor, of every governor, of every congressperson. And so it is their responsibility to serve the people of their districts, regardless of where you came from, regardless of who you are, centering human rights and centering the most marginalized voices of the districts that you live in. When we talk, for example, about issues and we get into a lot of debates and we let politics divide us, when you see homeless people on the streets of Portland, sisters and brothers, there's one solution to homelessness. One solution. Housing. Permanent housing, sisters and brothers. Don't debate homelessness. Don't allow people to fall. There's one solution to homelessness. These people need access to permanent housing. Low-income people need access to affordable housing. People need access to jobs. Oftentimes, in many cities across this country, and we're watching these fights happen all across the country, they tell us in New York, we're going to cut the Department of Education, the Department of Sanitation, the Department of Parks and Recreation, but we're going to increase the budget for the police department. And I say to people all the time, did we ever stop to think one time, where does crime come from? What are the root causes of crime and gun violence in our communities? Did you ever notice and say to yourself, why is this community, high income, predominantly white community, why don't they have crime? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Why do certain communities not have crime? You know why? Because they have access to the best hospitals. They have access to mental health services. They have permanent housing. They have access to high-earning paying jobs, access to transportation. Their kids have after-school programs. Their kids have soccer teams and basketball teams. They have access to every amenity and right and program that every child and every person in this country deserves. And because of that, they do not have high crime. High crime comes in communities mostly out of disparity, out of desperation, but nobody wants to talk about that. And so I'm asking all of you in this room to start reflecting on why there are ills in our society, why there is injustice in our society, and what is our role to combat that injustice. Because what I do believe as a Muslim is, and for those of you who are other people of faith, this is my philosophy, and this is what moves me and what motivates me. One fate that is inevitable for all of us in this room is that we are all going to meet our Creator. And what God says to me, Linda, I gave you skills, I gave you talent, I gave you a voice, and what did you do with the blessings that I gave you? When you watched our creation, my creation, suffer? What did you do when you saw refugees coming to your community? Did you turn your back on them? When you saw homeless people in your community? When you watched black mothers mourn over their children who were taken at the hands of either gun violence or police violence? What did you do? And I want to be able to meet my Creator and say, I did everything that I could with every blessing that you gave me. Sisters and brothers, we live in a very difficult moment today. And we just got to make a choice. You just got to make a choice. You got to make a choice. And I chose to stand with the most marginalized people. That's what I chose. Because you know why? If our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, if Jesus, may peace and blessings be upon him, was here today, in this country today, they would be on the front lines with the most marginalized people, with the sick people, with the orphans in our country, with those in poverty in our country, with the houseless people in our communities. I promise you, Jesus wouldn't be hanging out with members of Congress. Jesus wouldn't want to be with the most powerful people. He will tell me, show me the most downtrodden people. Show me the sick. Show me those who need healing, and take me to them. And that's why, my dear sisters and brothers, when I watch white Christian nationalists use Christianity as a way to justify oppression against marginalized people, I remind myself that as a Muslim, my beloved faith of Islam mentions Jesus in the Quran more than our own beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. And that how Jesus is a revered figure to us as Muslims. And we know him as a healer, as a fighter for justice, as one who stood with the most marginalized. That is the Jesus that I know, and that is the Christianity that I know. So I'm never going to be hoodwinked by any Christian nationalist in this country. And over my dead body would I allow for white Christian nationalists to ever believe or take over or think that this country belongs to them. Because this country belongs to all of us in this room. And I want to say to our Muslim community that as we experience some who want to oppose us as Muslims, we watch vandalisms of Muslim institutions across the country. We watch sisters who wear hijab who get targeted on college campuses or maybe at the supermarket or walking down the street. We have seen places across this country where organized groups get up and they oppose the building of mosques. We have been in costly lawsuits in cities across America to fight for our rights of religious freedom and to build religious institutions in this country. We have watched states across America who pass or attempt to pass anti-Sharia bills, which are really anti-Muslim bills, trying to limit our rights to be full Muslims in this country. And so what I say to our Muslim community, that we gotta be all on the same page, we gotta be all in this together. Because the Islamophobes, when they decide to target our communities or target our masajid, they don't do the research. They don't know what madhab you follow. They don't know where your imam studied university. They don't even know if you're Shia or Sunni. They just know that you're a Muslim. When they attack our sister on a college campus, they don't know if she's Pakistani from Bangladesh or she's African Muslim. They don't know if she's Palestinian or from Lebanon. What they know is that she is a Muslim. So I want you to know, my dear sisters and brothers, and I'm calling you to this, that as those who are anti-Muslim are treating us like we are one community, we gotta start acting like we are one community. And that's why I'm proud to be at an institution like MET, who models what it looks like to be a multi-ethnic, multi-racial Muslim community who welcomes all to the table, and everybody is dignified and everybody is worthy. And you are a model not only for Muslim communities across the country, but a model for the entire country, the United States of America. And Eric said this, and I'm going to say this in this room, and I say this to the Muslims and everybody else. I don't know how we're going to expect to live in a country where we all agree on everything. How is that possible? Sisters and brothers, we debate in our own families. Sometimes there are topics we don't agree on with our fathers. Sometimes you debate your husband, you debate your sister, you debate your father. So as we're organizing in the community around issues, please expect that we're going to disagree. And guess what? That's okay. By the way, that's normal. Because if we didn't agree, that means we're a bunch of robots that have no individuality. So when I call people to unity, that does not mean that I want you to agree with everything that I believe and everything that I have to say. Because unity is not uniformity. As long as we believe that everybody in this country deserves to be treated with full dignity and respect, and deserves access to full rights as enshrined in our Constitution, that's it. Then you and me are on the same page. And we could debate some issues over here in this corner right here. So don't fall for the divisiveness. We are coming up on a very important election. And I know we say that every 4 years. But it's a test for all of us. And I will end by saying this. I'm an organizer, so I'm not going to just leave here telling you what I just told you without giving you things to do. Because that's what organizers do. You all got a job to do when we leave here. In a lot of Black-led organizing space, they have a chant that they always say, and there's a part of the chant that says, "We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains." And my response to people in the movement is, and I will say to all of you, is how are we going to love and protect one another if we don't know one another? And so before you leave MET tonight, find people you don't know. Get up and sit at another table for a minute. Walk up to people that you've seen here for the first time. Welcome them into the space. Ask them their name. Where are they from? Where do they live? So that's your first job. Then we have, I don't know about people in this room, but I was born and I lived before the age of social media and before the iPhone. And let me tell you why that's important. Because I spoke to human beings. I knocked on their door. In my block where I grew up in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, my mother knew everybody on my street. Every Mexican, Honduran, Ecuadorian neighbor that we had. We had neighbors who were Italians, Yemeni, Palestinians, Albanians. My mother knew everybody. Today, we live in communities where you don't even know who your next door neighbor is. And I challenge you to go back to your apartment complex, to go back to your floor that you work in corporate America, in Google and Amazon, and every day when you go to work, you walk by a guy in a cubicle and you don't even know his name. And walk over and say, "Hello, I've been walking by you for the last 3 months and I thought I would stop and introduce myself to you. My name is Faisal, my name is Linda, my name is Muhammad, my name is Ahmed. I am your colleague. I work right down the hall from you. If you ever need anything, feel free to come by my office. Maybe you and I could even have a cup of coffee." Sisters and brothers, that is what we lost in this country. That very basic relationship building. So that's what you're going to do today. Those are your 2 homeworks. Then, after you do that, I got another homework assignment for you. And this is also for students, because the students always come up with 19 excuses why they can't do this, and I just don't believe it. People shut down when you start asking people for money or asking people to donate. And a lot of you did that today here at MET, and may Allah bless you and give you what you gave to MET 1,000 times over. And let me tell you, God is generous. You are not more generous than God. But for those of you even outside of MET, everybody cares about something. Everybody cares about something. Maybe you care about teaching girls STEM and coding. Maybe you care about undocumented students. Maybe you care about refugees. Maybe you care about supporting earthquake victims in Turkey and in Syria. May God alleviate their harm and suffering, because I went there, just recently came back, and it is horrific, nothing like you've seen on television. Maybe you care about serving the homeless. Maybe you care about breast cancer research. It doesn't even matter to me what you care about. Think about this, and I do this too, and I'm sure some of you do this too. I love a good cup of coffee. And I'm from New York. I like bougie coffee. I want a real good cup of drip coffee. And I'm sure some of you go get a nice cup of coffee from Starbucks or maybe a local Portland or Oregon coffee shop. We sometimes spend $5, $6 on a good latte. And I always say to the young people, what if one day a week, you say to yourself, you know what, this Wednesday, I'm not going to buy that latte. I'm going to put that $5 back in my pocket, and at the end of the month, I'm going to have $20. And every single month, I'm going to give to a small organization in my community that is working on an issue that I care about. And you might say to yourself, Sister Linda, $20, what is $20 going to do? And I'm going to tell you this as someone, and Eric met me when I used to run an immigrant refugee service organization in Brooklyn. If 20 people gave me $40, that's $400. You paid my light bill. I get to keep the lights on in my organization because of those $20 that you think are underestimated or may not even be meaningful to a small grassroots organization in your community. Maybe that organization is MET. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to make a commitment, a monthly commitment. Because it's not about the organization. It is about your values and your principles. To test your own commitment. Would you be committed enough to follow through on a monthly donation to an organization that you care deeply about. So think about that. Some of you may already do that. But for those of you who do not do that, make that decision today. And before the night is over, make that donation. I also will say to this room, and of course MET, as many folks know, is a nonprofit organization. They do not support individual candidates. They don't tell you who to vote for, but they are encouraging you to participate in democracy. Me, I don't work for MET, so I get to say whatever I want. There's a young sister in this room named Maham Ahmed. Where's Maham? Stand up, Maham. Maham is running for Beaverton School Board. And here's what I'm asking. And I'm talking to everybody, but of course to my Muslim sisters and brothers in particular. If you ever thought to yourself, I want to support Sister Linda. I know Sister Linda's outside and they always tell me, mashallah, Sister Linda, if you ever need anything, call me. So today I'm going to tell you what I need you to do. When I come back to MET next year, inshallah, or before that, I hope to come back to Beaverton School Board member Maham Ahmed. That's all I want. That's it. That's all I want. Because, sisters and brothers, it is not enough for us to say that we support women. We got to act on our words. And I told Maham, send me the link. I'm from New York. I will donate to your campaign because that's how much I believe in you. And that's how much I know that our Beaverton school district needs a voice like Maham's on that district. So are the Muslims in? Are you in? Are our friends in? Okay. Where's Counselor Nadia? Where is she? Is she not here? There she is. Let me tell you about being a woman in leadership, and let me tell you about being a Muslim woman in leadership, and let me tell you about being a brown Muslim woman in leadership. It ain't easy. And let me tell you, if it was easy, we would all be doing it. But there's not a lot of us that are out there. And so I hope that our Muslim community continues to support people like Nadia and the many other women in our communities who are commissioners and who are running for office, because we, the women in our Muslim community, we are the best that our community has to offer this country. And I'm so proud to say the many incredible women like Dr. Yasmin. This woman is an internal medicine doctor, a prestigious physician who invited me to her house. Her husband, who is also an oncologist and a doctor, making me a latte. The humility of the leadership that you have in this community. Watching Sister Yasmin in her humble leadership was something that was so inspiring to me and reinforced for me the best that our community has to offer. And so I say thank you, MET, for all the work that you do. And I want you to know that I leave today unapologetically Muslim more than I was when I came to MET and to Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much, everybody.